Hi there. Welcome. This is our second live session. Opportunity for you to ask questions and for me to answer them and for us to get to know each other a little bit better. If you're watching this, you probably know that I'm Mitch Reynolds and I'm running for mayor in the city of La Crosse, but feel free to join in at any time by messaging me through Facebook or Instagram. We're on both right now. I'm simultaneously doing Instagram and Facebook. I know you can't see any of this, but it's a technological breakthrough for me. But for everybody else, it's like, I do that all the time. That's like my other job. Anyway, so here we are, and I would love to hear from you. So send me a message if you have questions in relation to the types of issues that you have with the city of La Crosse right now. Feel free. So it's funny, as much as I would like to make this conversation, and every conversation I have about running for mayor in the city of La Crosse and about being mayor in the city of La Crosse, it is without doubt, it's something that happens continually when I start talking about the issues in the city of La Crosse. Oftentimes, what I get are conversations about what's going on nationally, politically, and the House of Representatives tonight. If you haven't seen that yet, they're meeting to consider a vote on impeachment of the President of the United States after the resolution to ask the Vice President and the Vice President to invoke the 25th Amendment. If you're like me, you had to actually look up what the 25th Amendment is, because it's not something that all of us have in our back pocket, the 25th Amendment. So I had to actually figure out what the 25th Amendment was. There's parts of it that I know. It does. It allows for the filling of the vacancy of the Vice President upon the untimely death of the President and the Vice President having to take over and all that kind of thing. But I was not aware of some of the other aspects to it, but I think everybody has gotten their full dose of 25th Amendment civics lessons in the last several days, so I'm sure that this is old hat to you. Anyway, so the House of Representatives is meeting right now. So interesting thing, and I don't, it's not that I want to go into this, it's just that, folks, it's something that I don't know how many times I've asked questions about what do you feel is important about the city of La Crosse, and the response I get is something along the lines of, I don't know, because I'm paying so much attention to what's going on nationally, and I get it, because when we, as we did last week, faced what, as I called it last week, an insurrection and an attempted coup at our nation's capital, I think that it's difficult to think of potholes. It's difficult to think about, the trailed system in the city of La Crosse, because we're watching such an extraordinary historical event. So anyway, send me a message right now. You can email questions to info@mitchreynolds.com, or you can also leave a text. You can text me at 608-492-0257. If you text me, I can answer that question right now. Now I have a number of questions that some of you have sent me ahead of time that I will get to, and I want to make sure that I have those, but I can't do that without acknowledging the historical, tremendous situation that we're going through in this nation right now, and really extraordinary times that we're in. So anyway, I do have questions coming up, so I want to make sure that I get to everybody who has a question. I at least try to answer the question. If I don't know the answer, I will try to find a way to get that at some point during this short live Q&A session here. Again, for those of you not knowing this, we're actually on Facebook and Instagram. Who knew that? But Fred asks, would you consider making efforts to redraw the voting district around UWL to help this part of the city find? I can't get any farther than that. I don't know. Find representation. I for some reason, see, this is where tech team would come in handy. I'm not sure why I can't get that. Freddie, help me out, bro. Okay, the redistricting of the city of La Crosse in terms of the city council districts, that was done a few years ago when the city council dropped from, I think it was 17 to 13 city council districts. And that redistricting process was, you can't ever make it perfect for all the people that you represent. There is for the students, for the largely University of Wisconsin La Crosse student population around the university, there is a student, more or less a student representative, who tends to be very vocal, depending on who the representative is. But generally speaking, my experience is that representative tends to be very vocal about the needs of the students of UWL and, frankly, of WTC as well. So it's not like there is a lack of representation. I doubt that we would go through another redistricting process. That doesn't seem likely to me, unless we shrink the city council again, and there have been calls for doing that. And I mean, that might be going from 13 to 11 or 13 to 9 or something like that. You could make an argument for having a more efficient city council if we have fewer city council representatives. However, the problem is that you have less influence on the way that they make decisions because there's more diffusion, if you will. There's less of an opportunity for you to have your say in the types of decisions that they are making. So I think that if we went to a smaller city council, Fred, just in relation to your question about redistricting, I think that would definitely be a way that we would redistrict that area to get more representation on city council, but I don't know if we would do it in any other way. Okay, I have, let's see, so this is SRO, so I'll get to that I have a number of other questions. I did not get to that other question last week. I do, if you, again, would like to ask a question, we can do that. You can message me right now. See, I'm trying to, see me balancing things? You could do that right now just by messaging me right now because I'm reading these as I'm going along. But I have this question here. You keep talking about unity and cooperation. You do get there's a whole bunch of people who live in an alternate reality and don't even see facts the same way you see them, right? All right, so this assumes that is in fact the case. And one could make the argument that there's a lot of people out there that don't see things the way that you see them, and I agree with that. But despite that, let me just say that I fully believe that we can find ways to mediate our differences and find our way forward in methods so that we can accomplish great things for the city of La Crosse. I really believe that. I really believe that that's something we can do. And it doesn't mean that we're all going to agree on basic constructs of impeachment, say, as the House of Representatives, as they're doing tonight in Washington. It doesn't mean that we're going to agree on those things. It doesn't mean we're going to agree on some other very core issues. It doesn't mean that. It just means that when it comes to setting priorities for our city, and that can mean how we fund libraries as opposed to police, or how we fund the amount of miles of streets that we want repaired compared to the how many times we want the parks mowed. We can decide that together. There's no problem with us taking those steps and finding a way to doing that together. It doesn't mean that we're going to agree on everything. I fully believe that there's a cooperative way that we can engage together so that we can bridge our differences. And I understand. I know that ways that there are number of people that have been working to divide us. But there are things that we can agree on. And some of the things that we can agree on is that we want to make the city of La Crosse, a better place for those who live here. The City Council this week is working on alternate side parking changes. It's very minor changes. I think the alternate side parking regulation or the ordinance needs to be probably reworked from the very beginning. But the question I got from someone this week says, why not just get rid of alternate side parking altogether? That sounds like an easy solution. Get rid of alternate side parking and then be done with it and then move on. The problem is that there's a real situation that we have at times when we're struggling with when it snows in the city of La Crosse, when it snows, when people parking on either side of the street, if they're parked on both sides of the street, sometimes the streets are so narrow that plows cannot maneuver, and then we get the situation where you know how this goes, right? So you start off with a street that's this wide, and then it snows, and then it gets narrower and narrower and narrower, and at times we've struggled getting fire trucks down streets. So that's a real challenge. That's something that it's not, we can't address that by getting rid of alternate side parking regulations within the city of La Crosse. However, I have to commend, and you can go to my website at mitchreynolds.com to see more of this, but I sent out a statement today. I have to commend the city council for at least addressing the issue of alternate side parking. There were so many complaints this year when the police in the city of La Crosse were ticketing drivers despite the fact that there was no snow on the ground. And it doesn't matter. They can explain over and over again, we got to clean up the leaves, we got to clean up the leaves. Nobody cares, all right? They want you to plow the streets of snow. If you've got problems with leaves, the people of La Crosse don't care. Come up with a better explanation than that. That's not good enough. But there was such outrage about that. For a month, there was tickets going out. And again, police are doing their job in this regard. But there were tickets going out despite the fact that there was no snow on the ground. And I said right away that this should not be something that's subjectively enforced by the City of La Crosse Police Department. The La Crosse Police Department we should not give them the ability to subjectively enforce so many of our laws. It's just not a good formula. So a change in alternate side parking regulations that's getting voted on by La Crosse this week, I think, is a very good and respectful and responsive way to be able to show people, at the very least, that the City Council is listening to them. Find out more about that, go to my website at mitchreynolds.com. I had a question from somebody last week that I never got to because we got sidetracked talking about, and we call it sidetracked, but impeachment and, oh my gosh, insurrection and riots and, a coup in the United Nations capital. But the question I got last week was, how do you feel about the SROs in La Crosse schools? Let me just say that I respect the work that the La Crosse School District has done in evaluating the school resource officers. I think it's having the study that they commissioned was 109 pages, 108 pages of evaluating how the SRO programs in general and specifically in La Crosse can lead to this school to prison pipeline. You have to read the study to really get a really good understanding or have a sense of an understanding of what that means for the city, for the children in the city of La Crosse or the La Crosse School District. It's very compelling. It is something that I'd like to look more into. Honestly, I think this is up to the school district of La Crosse. These are much more learned people than I am. These are people that study education. These are people that study behavioral sciences in relation to children. I also know, and I will be very frank about this, I'm not in the population group that typically runs into conflicts with school resource officers. I'm just not. My kids, generally speaking, did not have problems with school resource officers in the city of in the school district of La Crosse, but children of brown and black families do. That's real. So, and whether that's part of, I don't know what that is. I can't speak for those families. I can't speak for those children. But I can say that the La Crosse School District makes the call on this. I know that, there's been a representative of the La Crosse Police Department who wants to make the school resource officer issue a litmus test for all mayoral candidates. I respect that. That's fine. I don't believe that they are essential. I don't believe school resource officers are essential. I don't believe that having one stationed in our schools is essential. That doesn't mean that my children, who graduated from La Crosse schools, did not have positive engagements with school resource officers, because they did. They did. But I'm not everybody in the city. I can't. Other people have different experiences, and some of them are very, very negative. So, again, this is not something that, this is for the La Crosse School District to decide, and they already have, about the school resource officers. They will decide, and they have, to remove those SROs by, I think it's 2022 or something like that. And I think that they have done their homework, which is because they're schools. They've done their homework. They have done the research to solidify that position of removing the SROs from the school. And until, I guess, there is something that that provides some other metric for determining whether they should be in schools, I guess I'm willing to defer to that research. And the report that the school district commissioned on SROs clearly showed a connection between the criminalization of school misbehavior and criminality later in life. And I just don't, I guess, show me something different, show me something else. You can send me your question right now. Just send me a message. Nate says, is there anything we can do about sewage spill and make it so we're not having this happen again? La Crosse River, I think Nate is referring to, had a sewage spill. Was it last week, week before? It was noticed last week, something like that. Yeah, that's a mess. And that's not, it's difficult. I think the key is a response to that. We are not going to be able to stop all of the failing infrastructure from failing. We're not going to be able to do that. We can't, that would require us to be perfectly prescient about all the needs of the city at all times. The truth is, we have to be able to react quickly and then solve the problems and identify where they might happen again. I mean, that's bad, and we should have some monitoring that goes in place to determine whether there are other, this is we live in a situation where we have a very fragile ecosystem in some ways because we're right on the Mississippi River. There's all sorts of things that can happen there. We need to have a method for identifying when these situations happen and how we can react to them, but also have a monitoring system in place to make sure that this is not happening again. We can't keep it from happening every single time, but we can have a hazmat response system in place to react to those situations when we face them. Let's see. What is your stance on public safety, specifically the fire department and building inspections? Broad question, Chloe, I appreciate it. I do, there's so much there. Oh, wow. Okay, so the fire department and building inspections, I think that I was talking with a city council member earlier this week who, and if you like, feel free to send me your question right now, message me that. And you can do that at any time. Just call or text 608-492-0257, and I'll try my best to get back to you on a timely basis. Because I want to answer all your questions, and I want to let you know that I'm thinking about exactly the types of things that you're thinking about. But I appreciate you being here tonight as well. That I know there's a lot of other things you could be doing, and so just you weighing in and asking questions and us getting to know each other is great for me, and hopefully good for the city of La Crosse as well. Chloe asks, what is your stance on public safety, specifically the fire department and building inspections? Building inspections has been kind of a difficult situation because there has been so many changes to who's been in charge of building inspections. When I say so many, there's been about, I guess there's been 3 significant ones, and currently it's under the fire department's in charge of building inspections in the city of La Crosse, and it's interesting because building inspections, you ask any business owner and they'll have a different take on this, but one of the complaints that I have received more than one of is how there's not a lot of teeth behind what building inspections do in terms of ramshackle rental properties in the city of La Crosse, and that landlords are getting away with just awful things because the inspection department is not doing their job. And so I just want to make sure that we're clear that there's many different layers to this. But so one of the things is that the rental inspections in the city of La Crosse have been curtailed by state government. That was that whole that process where the state determined that municipalities should not have any sort of regulation, enforcement regulation abilities over rental properties. Okay, so there's that. But it is, I think, also true that the inspection department does not feel perhaps empowered enough to do what they should do to make sure that people are living in livable spaces. So, a couple different things. There's so much there to unwrap in terms of fire department and building inspections. It's a monumental thing, but in terms of building inspections, I personally believe that they can do more in some areas. I do think that building inspections at times can be heavy-handed, but we have rules in place to ostensibly keep people safe. The question is, should we evaluate those to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, that those rules are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that's something that I will certainly do. But it's always up for debate, and I'm always up for consideration, Chloe. And Jake asks, how do you feel about devoting more space to people, bicycle lanes, street cafes, wider sidewalks, and less cars? And there's more to that, but for some reason I am struggling with just getting that rest of that question. So Jake, I'm all about it. Let's do it smarter. Let's do it smarter. I love, first of all, just in terms of recreation and being outdoors, love the trail systems in the city of La Crosse. I think they're phenomenal. I love what ORA has done. That is amazing. And around the city of La Crosse, and then everybody else who's ever put time into building trails and improving trails around the city of La Crosse is just amazing. But in terms of transportation, Jake, which I think your question is about, yeah, we have to. I am, for I don't know how many years, that's all I did was bike my way to work, and we have always needed to find better ways to do that within the city of La Crosse. There's no question. We've always needed better ways to do that. I do not like the bump out craziness that happened on Cass Street. I think that was well-meaning, but very, very poorly executed. I think I would have probably tried to do something other than that, and at the time was very vocally critical about how that came out. And how that was planned to come out, frankly. That's not a good look.
David Crump.
But it is important to note that those improvements are essential for human-powered movement around the city. And I'm a huge fan, big proponent of that. I would definitely improve and um, continue to invest in human-powered movement around the city of La Crosse, whether it be pedestrians or bicycles or whatever it takes. I think it's important. I think it's important for the city. I think it's important for the health of the people who live in the city. Jessica asks, I heard the city is purchasing bottled water for people living on French Island whose wells are contaminated. More of that. I wish somebody could just really just push this button for me because I just don't know what I'm doing. Don't you just... Okay. Anyway, so Jessica, I know what you're talking about. So the PFAS, that contamination that has occurred because of the firefighting foam that was used at the airport for however long, has contaminated wells in the town of Campbell. It is a disastrous situation, potentially, for the city of La Crosse. Now, at this point, it's, we're basically, the city is in a position where it has to provide bottled water for people who have contaminated wells in the town of Campbell because, let's face it, while La Crosse Regional Airport is a regional airport, who does that regional airport, who's in charge of that? City of La Crosse. It's not, there's no secret there. So whether that happened in the 1960s and 1970s or yesterday, unfortunately, that is primarily the city of La Crosse responsibility to deal with that, to mitigate that situation. If you have contaminated wells, and I know this is not going to be a popular way to look at this for just about anybody in the city of La Crosse, right? Because we're supposed to really despise the people who live around us. I'm just not that way. Not going to do that. I feel like you have a responsibility to fix the messes that you make. If the city of La Crosse is in a position where it's made a phenomenal mess, unwittingly, to be clear, made a phenomenal mess through this PFAS contamination, then it's got to do something about it. Has to. And maybe there are regional partners who can deal with that because it's not going to get better. And it's very possible that there's state help and federal help that can help deal with this situation. I know that there's been some legal. I think there's been some legal action with manufacturer of the chemicals that are contaminating the wells in the town of Campbell. But City of La Crosse has to be at the forefront of working in a collaborative way to make sure that this is not a situation that we allow to continue. All right, so I want to get to a few more questions. I don't want to stay here all night because Doug asked public art. That's his only question. Public art, and that's 2 words with a question mark. There's many different ways to answer that question. I'll just go with, I love art in public spaces. And the way that we've gone about art it's interesting because it's one of those things where it is such a subjective aesthetic, right? Do you like the what's the Main Street parking, J Street parking ramp, whatever, Main Street parking ramp, the Main Street parking ramp in downtown La Crosse? Do you like the people climbing up the ramp on the Main Street parking ramp in downtown La Crosse? A lot of people hate it, can't stand it, never like that, can't figure out why it's there. But it is the mixture of that art and other art that I think enriches a community. Now the question is, how do we prioritize that over other things? And I think that's a conversation we can have. If the question is, do you like public art? I'm a big fan. Do you like the hatched baby? Maybe not. It's expressive. Let's just put it that way. All right, let me get through these. You were on WISM for a long time. What do you think of WIZM? Sorry. You were on WIZM. I say WISM because that's where I worked for a long time. You were on WIZM for a long time. What do you think of Bill Feehan's new fact-checking status there? Oof. Yikes. Yeah, I don't know. I don't work there anymore. Just gonna do that. Madhu, like, oof. I'm sure there was a reason to add Bill Feehan to the as fact checker. So, let's see. How come your wife isn't in more videos? She's way nicer than you. I know, she is. I had someone online this week, someone called me opinionated and abrasive. My mother calls me abrasive. That's how abrasive I am. Can be. Not all the time. I'm actually pretty nice. But my wife, Anna, is unbelievably awesome. And I agree. She should be in more videos. I will work on that. She's working right now. So that's why she's not here right now. But otherwise, she'd be here and she's awesome. Okay, this one, let's see. Can I say? No, I can't say that. So unity is BS. America's about division. That's what makes America great. Go back to your hippy dippy yurt village and tell your shaman what I said. I have mentioned several times that I'm all about cooperation, collaboration, unity. I don't have a hippy dippy yurt village, so I can't go back to it. But I really want to see what that looks like, because that might be a place that I'd like to visit. Neither do I have a shaman. Yeah, I agree. America, there is significant divides in America. That is certainly, the divisions in America have oftentimes led to conversations that have forced us to make really difficult choices. No question about it. Yeah, I do believe, again, as I mentioned earlier, I do believe cooperation, collaboration is the key to our future within the city of La Crosse and moving forward in so many different ways, and whether that be fire and police services, or libraries, or waste management, or in the case of the town of Campbell, supplying clean and fresh water, piping that in for the town of Campbell residents whose wells have been contaminated by the use of firefighting foam at the La Crosse Regional Airport. Any one of those things, cooperation, collaboration, that's what it's about. Yes, there are definitely divides among us all. We're stricken in that regard, especially right now. I'm right as we're talking about this, the House of Representatives in Washington is talking about impeachment after last week's attempted insurrection and coup. We are divided, but there are things, as I mentioned before, there are things that we can cooperate and collaborate on. There are so many of them. And in relation to finding a sustainable future, making our neighborhoods great places to live for everyone, finding transportation solutions that benefit more people. Among the many, many other things that we can talk about, those are some of those things, and we can reach some sort of accord on all of that if we can cooperate and collaborate. Yes, yeah, no question. Man, division it's been rampant. But there's a lot we can do about that. Last question, are you wearing pants? Yes, I am. I can't show you my pants right now. You'll have to take my word for it. I am wearing pants. I actually wear pants to every video meeting that I have. I can't show you my pants right now because my wife doesn't like my pants. And so she will not appreciate me standing up and showing you my pants. But I am, in fact, wearing pants right now. You can check out more about me, find out, and feel free to like our Facebook page, Mitch Reynolds for Mayor. Go to our website, mitchreynolds.com. I like the question is, I'd be more interested in hearing more about your public art funding stance. Also, is Rowan your fact checker? If Rowan's my son, and he is not my fact checker yet. He'll have to reach that point. But thanks for the question, Kim. I don't have a stance necessarily on public art funding. That's something that I think that I would have to develop, and I'm sorry, I just don't. I mean, public art is funded in many, many different ways. And I don't think there's any accord on how people have done that even over the centuries, frankly. So I'll work on that, Kim. I will try to come up with an answer for you at some point, and I'll let you know when and if I have one. Again, go to MitchReynolds.com. That's our website. And feel free to message me at any time with any of your questions. I have responded personally to a lot of people who have questions, and I will continue to do that. You can also just send me an email, MitchReynolds4mayor@gmail.com. That 4 is a numeral, the numeral 4. I feel like that's going backwards, so if I go like that, that might be forward. Or you can send me a text message or leave me a voicemail at 608-492-0257. Thanks so much for joining in. We have a lot to do in the city of La Crosse, and I hope to do it with you. Let's